So hello and welcome everyone to the first episode of the World Athletics Club. We're here in Denmark, in Aarhus, on the eve of the IAAF World Cross Country Championships. And we're hearing from a whole host of guests on tonight's show. We've got cross-country legends Paul Tergat, Lyn Jennings and John Treacy in the show. We're hearing from Paula Radcliffe, and we also have 3 guests on this show. Joining me tonight, we have Matt Baxter of New Zealand, Courtney Frerichs of the United States, and Joshua Cheptegei of Uganda. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us. We're going to start with the most experienced at IAAF World Cross Country Championships, Joshua. What does this event mean to you overall? Why is the World Cross so interesting for you as an athlete?
Thank you. I would say that the World Cross Country is really very interesting because it offers a lot of surprises and experiences, of course. It's an event where you find a lot of surprises. What you expect really, may not meet your expectations. That's why it's a tough challenge, and I call it always that a tough experience.
You mentioned surprises, you mentioned a tough experience. In 2017, you had the World Cross Country Championships on home soil in Kampala. You went out really hard. You were leading for a lot of the race, and then suddenly everything started falling apart. How tough was that for you? And what did you take from that moving forward?
Well, I would say, if I remember back in 2017, 2 years ago, it was really a great experience, of course. Of course, I would not say it's a negative experience because out of that challenge, out of that experience, I have really grown a lot in terms of achievements, in terms of graduating into the seniors. I've had that year the fastest time in 15 kilometers, and then I've had a silver medal in the World Championship. So it's really a positive challenge for me because when you look at I looked at it with a lot of positivity, and then it made me to become strong, and it really made me to really believe more in myself,
And was that mentally something that you took forward? You mentioned the results that you had after that on the track in particular and in the road. How did that race help you achieve those medals that you have won since?
Yeah, like I said, that experience really offered a platform to me where I learned to believe in myself because I was just moving all out, and then I was enjoying it. Then later I paid it.
Enjoyed it a bit too much.
Yeah, really. And I can say a lot of things happened, and I can say in terms of the weather conditions, it was too humid because the previous night before the World Cross Country, it was all that rainy and cold. Then I never expected to be a hot race. Yeah.
And it's great you just mentioned the weather conditions there, because not all of us have experienced the kind of conditions we had in Kampala there. Someone who is quite experienced in cross-country running is Paula Radcliffe, and we got her to give us a few cross-country tips for not just the elites, but also mass runners.
5 tips for cross-country running. Hi, I'm Paula Radcliffe, world record holder in the marathon, but my first love was very much cross-country running. I won the World Junior Cross Country in 1992 and then the World Senior in 2001 and in 2002. Tip number 1, my number 1 tip for cross-country running is to make sure that you've got a good pair of cross-country spikes that are going to be tied on very tightly to your feet, and that you've got the right length of spikes in. The length of spikes depends on what the course is like. So if it's a dry course, a path something like this, then the shorter cross-country spikes are fine, 8mm, 9mm. If it's muddier, you might need to go as long as a 15mm spike, or even an 18, or more often 12mm. I used to put slightly longer in the back and shorter in the front to enable better grip up and down the hills. And then also, if it's muddy, masking tape. Tape around your feet to hold the shoe on, around the arch, around the instep of your foot to help keep your shoes on right to the end. Tip number 2. My second tip is always walk the course. It's really important in cross country that you walk the loop or the course that the race is going to be on. You make sure you're aware of exactly where your route goes and you know when the turns are coming up and where you're going to follow, that you know where the difficult sections are, where the muddy sections are, how to run the tangents and which way the wind's blowing, because that can also be important. You need to make sure that you stay strong for those sections into the wind and you use the sections with the wind behind you.
More tips from Paula will come a bit later in the show. Now, Courtney, she mentions masking tape is an option to keep your shoes on. Have you ever experienced while running that struggling with any of your clothing maybe coming off or shoes coming off in very muddy conditions?
I haven't. I've run in some muddy conditions, but haven't done the taping. I've seen it before, though, so it'll be interesting to kind of talk with some of the other experienced athletes to see if that's something we should consider for the race tomorrow.
I was just about to say, what's your top tip in terms of making sure that everything stays in place? You're up for the challenge that we have coming up here. Is there anything in particular?
As far as gear goes, or just in general?
In general.
For tomorrow, at least in terms of racing, I'm going to kind of be focused on consistent effort. I think that's a good way to take on the challenge of the course, and throwing time out the window. That's, I think, a good tip for championship racing across the board, but in particular with how challenging this course is it's about competing, and who cares what time you run.
And now we're normally used to seeing more of you on the track. You're obviously won a medal in London in the steeplechase. You set the North American record last year in Monaco. How does cross country compare to the steeplechase?
I think there's a lot more similarities than people realize. Cross country for me is where I learned to find my love for running, and then steeple was where I learned to find my love for running on the track. So that for me is really special. And with the steeple, the last K is really tough because you're really fatigued. And I think in cross country, the same sort of feeling happens, for us going into this last 2K loop, I feel like is similar to last K of the steeple, because not only are you tired because it's the end of the race, but you have obstacles. So we have challenges with the hills and the different mud pits and things, and like the steeple, you have the barriers. So I'm excited to see how, challenging myself on something like this will then translate also to the steeple later in the season.
And you just mentioned you discovered your love for running through cross country, and I've heard a lot of people actually say this, and both you, Joshua, and Matt, you were nodding along there. Have you had similar experiences finding your love for running through cross country, Matt?
Yeah, I think cross country offers something special because track, for the most part, no matter where you go in the world, it's the same thing. It's the same 400-meter oval, but when you do a cross country course, it's all different. And so coming to somewhere like this for the race tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be a completely different thing to what I've experienced before. This isn't just another track in another stadium. This is a whole different beast, and there's something exciting about it as well, because we also get to run for our team, being able to represent Team New Zealand as well. There's something special to that, and I think it brings something extra out of you when you're not just out there as an individual on the track.
Now, Paula also mentioned the importance of familiarizing yourself with the course, and you guys would have done your homework and actually walked the course and looked at all the different challenges. But for the viewers at home, we've got a little animation to give you an idea of what the course has in store for the runners. Now, I'm glad I don't have to run this. Matt, you, looking at the course, gave an expert analysis on Twitter the other night and actually looked at the various parts on the course and which parts you thought were going to be really hard. I've got a few of your tweets here. For those of you who haven't read any of the tweets that Matt's put out, he's talking about how the course climbs and drops and you never get a break. And there was a very nice line that says, if your legs are not tired enough, there's a mud section, a sand section, a water section to hurt you further. The water section is probably going to be the best place to cry when without people noticing. Is it really that bad?
Yeah, when we checked out the course, we did it on Tuesday when everything was still being under construction, I guess. So we never got the full Monty, I guess, of how it actually looks now. I'm going to be checking out the course again after this, and I've seen there's a lot more sand and stuff on it, so even my description on Twitter was not even accurate because it's gotten harder since I did that. But yeah, I remember seeing the videos, and I was keeping an eye on all the photos that came up on social media, and you think you know what it's going to be like, but once you get here, I mean, someone was saying how the start is a net uphill, but when someone says it's a net uphill, you think it's a little bit of a climb, but this is a hill. This is a legit hill. And I saw them setting up the mud section, the water section when we were coming around here, and it's going to be a beast when we go over it. So although I put it out in a way that tried to almost scare people and it seems all terrifying, but it's going to be fun. You can tell that there's a lot of people behind the scenes who have put a lot of time and effort into making this something special, and so it's going to be really exciting.
So it's actually tactics just irritating your competitors?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I mean, why else do you have Twitter than to post something out there that gets you on a couch like this? So, yeah.
Joshua, when you hear stuff like that, are you scared or excited?
No, I'm not scared. It's part of course, someone's game plan, and of course, yeah.
And the course, of course, is completely different from Kampala 2 years ago. What are you making of it? What are your thoughts on all of those hills, all those different sections?
Yeah, I can say it's really a complete story from Kampala. Kampala was all about speed running, of course, but this is a different environment, and it's really quite demanding. And you go to enjoy it and feel it, of course. It's not about only winning. Sometimes it's about enjoying, and So when you look at the course, it's really demanding. When you really think that you are going to relax in the slope, but again, that's the worst part of it. Because if you just run and again after running, and then you're gonna get the climb, and then you have a sand pit, and then the mud and water. So it's really quite a lot of, it needs a lot of demands in terms of energy, in terms of the endurance. So you just need to enjoy it, and you don't need to be sad about it, yeah.
Courtney, is there anything that you're really looking forward to, or you're really scared of?
I'm excited for it. I think more challenging courses are, for me, a little better. I really enjoy them, and some of my memories from college were ones that were challenging, but the roof is a lot steeper than I was expecting to. I remember seeing the photos and being like, okay, that's a cool concept. It didn't look that bad, and then we got here, and I was like, oh my. And so, we keep trying to take pictures of it, and it doesn't do it justice. So that's going to be a challenge, I think. But overall, I think when it gets tough, I'm going to always remember the team side of things, and I think that'll get me through those tough parts.
We've heard your thoughts on the course. We just went down to the course earlier with one of our ambassadors here, Lyn Jennings, of course, 3-time world cross champion, has won several medals at these championships, and she gave us an idea of what she thought of the course.
Lyn Jennings plays it close to the vest as she had so many times before.
Well, the sweeping views are going to be lost on the runners, at least the runners that are contending. Their eyes will be just on the terrain in front of them. So the beauty of this place won't hit them until later. What I love are the undulations, where you have to change how you're moving through the ups and downs, a lot of the cornering. And just the sweeping nature of the course lends itself to being able to move your mental thoughts forward as the way that you're running. So as soon as you're finished sort of with one small section, the next one is upon you. And I found that I thrived on courses like that, where there weren't long straightaways. The long straightaways require a different kind of mental focus. In all honesty, the athletes that are strong and ready to win will win regardless of the course. And every athlete that is an achiever and who has grand designs on winning this thing will attack the course and make it their own. So it's really irrespective of the kind of course. Every athlete who wants to win this thing will find a way.
Win number 3 at home for Lyn Jennings of the United States.
Well, that was quite an interesting insight there from Lynn. And one of the things that she mentioned there was the fact that she likes the fact that there's lots of different sections on the course, one after another, rather than long straights, because she said the long straights are quite tricky for the mind. Joshua, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I really agree with that, because it does not give you a lot of time to relax. Of course, you are focused all the time. Yeah.
And Matt, your experience in cross-country running in the NCAA and so forth, how do you compare courses that you're used to from those kind of scenarios compared to something like this? And as Lynn says, having different sections rather than just those long straights that are more about pace.
Yeah, it's going to be a completely different experience for sure. I think one of the things which will be somewhat similar in terms of my last NCAA race was the atmosphere at NCAAs can get pretty intense, and it can be you get a lot of students out, you get a lot of fans, and so coming here, it seems like that's going to be a similarity. The atmosphere is going to be crazy here from how it's being hyped up and how it seems like how many fans are going to come out. So, yeah.
I mean, we have a Viking section there.
Yeah.
We haven't seen them on the course yet, but surely that's going to be something that might be slightly confusing as you're going on the course?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't even know what to expect. I've only ever seen Vikings in movies at this point, and so what does a real life Viking look like? I don't know. But yeah, once you're coming into that last lap, are you gonna even notice a Viking section, or is everyone around the course going to seem like a Viking section? You're going to be so out of it at that point. I don't know, but it's definitely a fun concept, and I love the fact that they've added that in.
And there's also a beer tent on the course. Do you think you'll have time to have a little drink in between, or maybe go straight there after the race to celebrate, Courtney?
Possibly. No, it'll be, like you said, it's nice, all these different sections, because I think with how challenging it is, it's nice. I like having something to focus on. Probably that's why I steeplechase. So constantly having to think about what's coming next. And in the crowd, again, like every memory I have of big track meets or cross-country meets, NCAAs, the crowd's really involved. So it'll be neat to see them involved with like the beer tent and the Vikings and stuff. So I'm excited for that part of it.
Of course, that part is very unique to cross-country running. Someone who's really experienced on the cross-country scene, but who's never come across anything like what we have here, is Paul Tergat. And my colleague Ben went to catch up with him here in Aarhus and talked a bit about his memories from former World Cross Country Championships.
Tergat comes away and coming home to win the World Cross Country Championship for the 5th time in succession, and that is an all-time record.
When you won the first one,
it was such a sweet. I didn't sleep. I went to sleep with my medal.
Really?
My gold medal, my first gold medal ever. I went to bed with it.
Really?
I could not believe that I won it. That is why I'm saying that cross country, there are some moments that I will never forget.
Yeah.
That's my first gold medal in cross country. Finally, because I've been trying it for some years, but it paid off.
Yeah.
That finally, I was at the podium. I was the main man. I was the man of the day.
I read somewhere that you didn't realize how good at running you were.
Once you realize that you have a special gift that God has given you, then definitely you have to work hard. I really worked so hard to make sure that I enhance it and work my way up. And then from 93, I started up again. But since from 95, I was able to hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 95, 96, 97, 98, and 99. 5 times in a row.
What a superb performance. Kenya take the men's title. Paul Tergat takes the tape.
Yeah, try that. cross country gives you a total shift, mental shift of how to see things, how to charge, and how to attack. And once you are prepared well in cross country, there is nowhere or any condition or any kind of course that you cannot be able to tackle. Yeah.
Cross country is your true love.
Yes, yeah. It's a passion, and because of cross country, it took me nearly everywhere in the world. I can only be grateful that I was able to start my career with cross country.
Yeah.
And it has actually propelled me to where I am till today. Yeah.
Hearing from someone like Paul, you can really tell how much cross country has given him over the years. And there's obviously so many experiences that he's recalling. Courtney, if you look back, do you have any favorite or maybe even worse cross country experiences?
Definitely, I have some highs and lows in cross. I think, like you said, cross country is where I found my love for running, and also I think what encouraged me to keep running. My very first state meet, I went out really hard and ended up collapsing in one of the crawling to the finish type scenarios. But then by the end of my NCAA career, I was actually part of a national championship team, like Matt here, and that definitely is up there as one of my absolute favorite memories. And I think that that's what has me so excited about this particular race and experience is that team element. And so I think that's one of my favorite parts about cross country, and I'm excited to hopefully add another team memory with this race tomorrow.
Joshua, do you have any favorite or least favorite races? I mean, you talked about 2017 and that actually it wasn't as bad because it helped you further down the line. Any other examples?
Yeah, I've had a tough experience in a tough condition, and that was in Italica 2015, where it was all raining and muddy, and windy, so it was a tough experience for me and a tough challenge. Yeah.
And for you, Matt, any favorites, least favorites?
Yeah, even my last NCAA race, it had a bunch of highs and lows in it. I think I went into that with the expectations that I could do quite well individually, and our team had the potential of doing really well. And so I got a little bit cocky maybe in the press conference before, and it was being held at Wisconsin. And so I mentioned in one of the interviews that the Wisconsin team might need a home course advantage, basically. And so when I was coming into the last 2K and I was struggling a little bit, and all I hear is this huge Wisconsin crowd just heckling me as I'm running by, and I was thinking, okay, this is what it feels like to have something come back to bite you. When I was having a race that wasn't quite going my way, but once we finished, we crossed the line, and it was a team victory for NAU. And so even though sometimes over cross-country, if you don't have your best individual performance, if you have a team, a really good team performance, then that kind of fades away a little bit.
And you mentioned the home advantage there, which gives me a perfect opportunity to mention the next thing that I was going to ask you. Australia's just been awarded the next World Cross Country Championships in 2021. Mm-hmm. For the first time in ages, that's actually something that's fairly close to home for you. Are you excited about that? Do you think some Kiwis will come over and really make it a bit of a home advantage for you there for once?
Yeah, definitely. I was really excited to see that it went over to Australia. And yeah, like you said, to be so close to home. And we have such a great, healthy rivalry with Australia. So we're going to want to send a strong team over. And I think that's why we're sending a full-strength squad, or at least close to this meet, which we haven't necessarily done in the past, at least for a few years now. And so we're getting ready for Australia. We're gonna attack that. We want to beat some Australians. We want to beat other people as well, but Australia in particular.
So hopefully no more, or maybe even extra cockiness in the press conference.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, we're 2 years out now. I'm sure I can drop something in.
Of course, before we can really focus on Australia 2021, we've got tomorrow's race to conquer. So while we're sitting here inside the museum, we've been outside earlier and had a look at how some of the teams are assessing the course ahead of tomorrow.
The hill it is big.
Epic. This course is, I've never seen anything like it before.
El circuito bastante complicado, pero sé que vamos a dar lo mejor.
かなりきついコースだなと思いました。
Now, of course, everyone prepares differently for a race. Courtney, I think your race day preparation involves peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, I remember you tweeting out a photo of my pre-race PB&J at the Continental Cup, but yeah, I definitely like to keep my foods as similar as possible. PB&J is a pretty big staple, and I actually always eat Fruit Loops the morning of races, and traveled over with some for tomorrow morning, and you know, they had them in London and it worked well, so might as well keep it going.
Do either of you have any race day superstitions, anything that you really have to do on race day or anything that you really try and avoid, Matt?
For me, I mean, I have not had Fruit Loops or PB&J. I've been in America for 3 years, but I haven't been there that long, apparently. For me, I just try and keep relaxed throughout race day. I mean, it's, especially once you come out to the course, there's so much hype and so much excitement, and it's real easy to let that get to you and drain you. So I just, on race day, just try and hang out with the team and keep the emotions low and relaxed. And once you get on the start line, I'll save all the hype and excitement for then.
And Joshua, you anything? Do you have to tie your shoes in a certain order or put your bib on first at the front and then at the back, or nothing like that?
Yeah, I kind of have a special way of putting my shoelaces in right position, whereby if you are in a race and it comes out, it will save you, because you just tie it like this, and then on top of that you have to roll it again and again and again, so that it doesn't, you don't give an opportunity to, you know, drop your spike or anything. Yeah.
Okay, take notes, guys. Now, someone who has a very special pair of shoes is John Treacy, who donated the shoes from one of his World Cross Country title-winning races to the IAAF Heritage exhibition here, and we caught up with him to hear something more about those shoes.
I was a heavy favourite then going into Limerick cross country as the defending champion, and 30,000 or 25,000 people showed up in Limerick to watch me win, not to finish second. So there was a bit of pressure on that day, but I had one of those days where I was absolutely flying, and from the gun I knew I was really going to really run very well. Usually when I ran cross country, if I got a lead, I was never caught, and that day it was just pure joy running and really enjoying the atmosphere, and the crowd carried me for the 12K. It was wonderful. We didn't value these things when we were younger, and I found these in a bar in Ireland. Someone got to my mother and said, "Listen, can we get John spikes? I want to put them on the bar." That was one of the cousins, and that's what happened. I didn't know anything about it until 30 years later when I was out in the bar and saw them up there. Great to have them, and great to show them to everyone in the world. You can see they're well pounded and well worn, and the dirt is still on them. So you have to carry the mud with you from Limerick, and that's what makes it so authentic. And you know, the number is all spattered, and that's the way it was. The shirt is there, and it's a lasting legacy to what Limerick was about. And anytime I look at that shirt, I just smile, because it was such joy that day.
Earlier, when we heard from Paul Tergat, he mentioned that he went to sleep with his first international medal because it meant so much to him. Joshua, if you look back on all the medals and things that you've won since, is there anyone that really sticks to mind for you, that you have in a special place or that has a special memory?
Yeah. My special memory was in 2014 when I first won my international medal in the World Junior Championship in Portland, United States. it happened that I was really expecting a gold medal. Then when I won the gold medal, I really had to keep it in my bag because I thought someone was gonna take it. Yeah.
And where do you keep it now?
It's just it's in the bag in a suitcase and in a cupboard, of course, locked. Yeah.
And Courtney, when you won that medal in London in 2017, what did you do with that? Did you do anything special?
The medal is at home, and it's in kind of a shelf that is on display with some other mementos from races, some NCAA trophies and stuff. But I definitely found myself looking at it probably every day for the first couple weeks because I was just in shock and was like, did this really happen? And it was a really special moment. So I definitely cherish the medal.
And of course, we're going to hope that all of you in one shape or another will maybe come away with some more medals tomorrow. Now, speaking of tomorrow, earlier we already heard from Paula giving out some tips, not just for you elites, but mainly also for the mass runners. And we now have that second part of her cross-country running tips coming up.
Tip number 3, my third tip, would be to make sure that you run to your strengths and that you really train for cross country. So train yourself to run well up hills, to run well down hills, to run well on cambers and on slopes, on mud and on different conditions, so you're not caught out or caught unawares by conditions that might be out there on the course. Tip number 4. Make sure you get a good start. It's really important that you pace yourself in cross-country running, of course, but you need to get up there to begin with. So you need to get out fast and make sure that you have a good position so that you can sight the obstacles, sight the objects coming up on the course and be able to get a good run at them. Tip number 5. And my final tip is to race the particular cross-country course. Not the distance, not the time. They don't really matter in cross-country running. We're not concerned with split times. We don't need to know exact pace that we're running. It's how you run over that course and how you use your strengths on that cross-country course that matter.
I'm sure you guys know all of this. You're experienced enough. I'm afraid that's all we have time today. Thank you so much for coming on. If you guys want to follow along what we have in store tomorrow at the IAAF Mikela World Cross Country Championships, please head to the IAAF website, iaaaf.org, and get all the information in terms of start lists, start times, broadcast information, and follow the IAAF social media channels for all the insight from the championships.